Hey there everybody, how you doing? And you could probably hear in the background my diesel heater running. And I know in the previous video I talked about talking louder over the diesel heater that was really loud. And I think that worked out okay. So one of the questions that I've gotten regarding the diesel heater, actually I got a few questions, I got several questions about it. And the ones that constantly come up all the time when it comes to diesel heater. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to attempt to answer some of the more common questions that I get regarding diesel heaters. Right now I've got the diesel heater running, and it's certainly warming up my little cabin here, and that I'm very glad of. It's a pretty decent day. It's a decent day, not too cold. Now, I don't want to talk over the diesel heater, so what I'm going to do is, ironically, I'm going to turn it off, and then we're going to talk about the diesel heater. Well, I'm going to talk to you about it. So over here, I've got a switch, and to turn it off, I just press a button, and it's a middle button, and press it for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then it starts to shut down. And one common question I do get with regards to diesel heaters is, how much power does it take up? So let's talk about power consumption with regards to diesel heater. So you could run your diesel heater off your starter battery, okay, but you may have a challenge at the end of the night or maybe early in the morning when your car doesn't start up. So running it off your starter battery on your car probably is not a good idea. So, but you can do it. I guess if you're in a desperate situation, you could do that. Another way you could power your diesel heater is via one of those jackeries or power generators where you charge it up and then you hook it up, and then you can charge it that way as well. You could run it that way. And I think I've seen a couple of those on YouTube where they're running it. But in terms of a van build where you want everything to be nice and tidy, at least as best you can, there's an alternative to that, and that's using an auxiliary or a house battery. So now in terms of running, or rather charging the battery, I won't go into it. There's several ways to charge a house battery. One way is through solar, which is quite popular. Another way is using what's called a DC to DC charger, and what that is it's connected to your main battery, your starter battery, and using the alternator as the car is driving, as you're moving along, it's charging your battery, your house battery, your auxiliary battery. And there's all kinds of products available right now that allow you to do that. The one that I have is the Renogy DC to DC charger. It also has an included MPPT controller, because I also get my power through solar. So I have DC to DC charger, I've got solar, and I also installed a very simple shore power connection via a NOCO plug. So I have a video of that somewhere. I'll see if I can put it up. Oh, listen. It got quiet because the diesel heater just turned off. Okay, so let's say you have your power. You're not going to worry about your power. You're going to get power going into the diesel heater so you can run it. One thing you have to understand is when you're running a diesel heater, there is a greater power requirement at the beginning and at the end, and that's to run the fan and to get everything started. So the line of thought is it's typically 12 to 15 amps that's required on startup. That has to be available from your battery, and then 12 to 15 amps on shutdown, when it started to shut down. And then throughout the time when the diesel heater is running, it's anywhere from 2 to 3 amps. And I only know that because I've read about it, and I've also seen several people test it via YouTube videos, and that's sort of the general running thought when it comes to power. So 15, 3, and then 15. So your battery has to be able to supply that. And one thing I have seen, and I actually personally experienced when I started doing this, was when my battery didn't have the initial 15 amps, it wouldn't light up at all. All I got was smoke, and I got an E10 error. So that's something that will happen, is if you don't have enough power, you're going to have problems. And so that's a brief discussion when it comes to power. And one other thing to remember too is, if you have a digital controller versus the one that comes with a knob, the analog controller, there will be a draw on your battery. So it depends on how much battery you have, how many amp hours, if you have other devices that are drawing from that, even in a small way. The expression is, it's called a parasitic draw, and that you may not be using it, but there's something drawing away from the battery, and you better have some way to make sure that it's actually being topped up on a regular basis. So it's something to keep in mind when it comes to your battery, and also when you realize that the diesel heater, most diesel heaters do come with these controllers. Now, another question I get regarding diesel heaters is, how do you get your fuel? Where is it hooked up? What does it look like? And so on and so forth. Well, let's start with, there's two types of diesel heaters that I'm aware of that I've seen. There's the Webasto diesel heater, and then there's the Amazon Special, aka Chinese diesel heater. Like right now, I'm not prepared to actually talk about the differences and the advantages of a Webasto heater. It's clear that it is a higher quality in terms of production. And then you have the Amazon Special or the Chinese diesel heater, maybe a lower quality, but they do the same thing pretty much. Now, this may be anecdotal. I've had my diesel heater for about 2 years, 2 winters, and I've used it regularly, especially when it gets cold, because you need that. So in terms of how long it lasts, well, so far it's lasting good, and hopefully it'll continue to last, and hopefully it'll continue to work. And like anything else, you get what you pay for, so please do your research. However, I did do my research, and a Webasto heater is going to set you back anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500. And what I have here, a Chinese diesel heater, was about $175. So even if it broke 5 times, I'm sort of still ahead of the game. There could be that inconvenience, but still, I'm willing to do that because I don't want to fork out all that cash all at one time. The budget is, I have $175. I'm going to use the diesel heater that's from Amazon, aka Chinese diesel heater. So what we're just going to call it is, I'm going to call it a generic diesel heater, just so that we're consistent. There's so many different types out there. So when you buy a generic diesel heater from, whether it's eBay, Amazon, or some other place, Alibaba, I think that's what it's called, right? It usually comes with a fuel tank or a fuel container, and that's where your diesel goes. And in most cases, that's kept at a place where it's accessible. So you literally just go to the pump and you pump diesel into it, okay? Now, there are some diesel heaters that are non-generic that do run on gasoline. And again, there's all kinds of discussions about this, but for now, we're going to talk about a generic diesel heater, and we're going to talk about it's using diesel. So in terms of the actual fuel tank, the amount of diesel that you can fill a fuel tank that usually comes with these generic ones is about 10 liters. I usually fill it around 9 liters. I like to sort of just keep a bit off the top there, a bit free, so 9 liters. And for per liter, depending on how high you have it set, you can get anywhere from 5 to 7 hours per liter. I think that's about the right amount, because when I run my diesel heater, I'm spending maybe $10, $15 a week maximum, and that's maybe using it quite a bit on a daily basis. So that would be probably the best answer, is per liter 5 to 7 hours. And another question I get with regards to diesel heater is, when they're going for a generic one, they always say, oh, who should I buy from? So they go to, let's say, an online store on Amazon, and they see all these types of diesel heaters right in front of them, right, basically listed, a whole bunch of them, and they're ranging in prices from $175, $200, $300, and you're wondering which one is the best one. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. In most cases, it's marginal. In most cases, a lot of these diesel heaters are built with the same parts, probably by similar and same companies, and they're just branded a particular way or a different way. What I like to look for is the kind of service that I'm going to be getting. If the seller has basically infrastructure and people, or the wherewithal, if I can use that expression, to help you out if there's ever a problem. Now, the good thing is, if you order from Amazon, usually it's easier to return and maybe get a replacement or get a refund. I'm not saying that you should, but that's been my experience when it comes to returning anything from Amazon, especially if what I bought wasn't exactly or just didn't do what I needed to do. So that's one thing I would look into when it comes to buying a diesel heater from a seller. Look at their ratings or reviews, sometimes joining certain groups like Facebook or Reddit, or just putting it out there and saying, hey, I plan on buying from this seller. What are they like? And people will chime in and tell you what they liked or didn't like about that particular seller. However, word of caution, again, it's their opinion. You don't really know. It could be their competitors. So in some cases, like anything else in life, do your research, and you have to take a chance. I have been incredibly fortunate in that I was able to buy a unit that's been working really well. I'll use the expression knock on wood. There's lots of it here. And so far, so good. However, if you are a total stickler and you really want some really good reliability, then you're going to have to pay for that. So a Webasto might be something you might want to look into. It is a lot more money, but you're going to be paying for some peace of mind. Granted, I have heard some stories, okay, again, just to balance it out what I'm saying, I have heard some stories where they purchased a Webasto and it didn't work out, it broke down on them. So, throwing caution to the wind, I guess that's what it's called. A question I get as well when it comes to diesel heaters is, how difficult is it to install? Well, that's a good question, and my reply to that is it's largely dependent on your skill set, right? For example, some people will not be able to use a drill because you have to drill a hole, 2 of them, or at least one big one, so that you can vent out the exhaust and also so that you can have some fresh air intake. That is one thing you need to do with a diesel heater, is there's got to be those 2 things. Now, that alone in itself already scares a lot of people away. However, it depends on how you balance out the benefits of the diesel heater. You could perceivably just use a Mr. Buddy heater, like a propane heater. However, that has its own challenges. In my case, I prefer a diesel heater because it's hot, toasty, dry air that's not going to condensate. So that's a big plus. And when things condensate, there's going to be issues, for example, mold. And a diesel heater helps avoid that. But ultimately, in order to avoid mold, you just have to make sure you have good, proper airflow going through your van. Make sure it's dry air as well. So something to keep in mind. So in terms of installing it, it really is a matter of being able just to follow the instructions. There are hundreds of YouTube videos showing you how to install a diesel heater. They're extremely popular. I thought of doing one. Maybe I will, but at this point, probably not, because mine's already installed and I didn't have the foresight or the brains or planning to actually do a diesel heater install video, because frankly, I didn't even know I was going to end up on YouTube. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to end up on YouTube. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to end up on YouTube. When I was building up my van, I just wanted to build it. I was just building, and then I thought, hey, you know what? I should take a few pictures of this because that might be handy. I took very little video. So when I did start taking video, it was kind of like my van was pretty much already built. And so I started putting together YouTube videos, not build videos, but sort of narration videos like this one, I guess. And yeah, now here I am. I'm sitting here talking about diesel heaters. So I don't know if you noticed, there's a lot of activity around me. I'm just in a park right now. Well, it's a a ski hill park. I've gone here before. It's in some of my videos. That's a nice place to sort of just chill out, gather my thoughts. So the next question could possibly be, I know I've got this question before, is it worth having a diesel heater? Well, actually, yeah, it is. Actually, it's worth it to have any type of heating system in your vehicle, because in wintertime, like now, it is totally cold. So having a diesel heater is extremely important. Now, you could say that, hey, you know what? Having a van or a cargo van, it's sort of like having a giant metal tent. And I get that. If you've got the proper sleeping bags and everything else, then you can stay warm, then great. But for me, I think it's totally worth it. It was totally worth it to essentially drill out holes in my van. They're small anyway, they're tiny. And if I had to plug them up for whatever reason, I would just probably get some Bondo, some fiberglass, and it'll be good as new. It'll be strong as ever. So I think it's worth it. I think if you're going to be out there, I think you should, that's one of the things you should have is a diesel heater. And also, just in case, a backup. And that backup would be something as simple as a sleeping bag and maybe some extra clothes. So yeah, so that about concludes a lot of the main questions I get about diesel heaters. And they're common questions because when I am on the forum in any of the groups, these are the questions I get the most. So I thought I'd make a video of it. So point over to it instead of me constantly typing. I made this video. I hope it's helpful. And one thing I always say at the end of my video is, please always remind yourself that you're awesome. You could do stuff. You can plan it out. You can plan things out slowly. And we're all different, right? There's some days where you feel like you can take on the world, like you can take on the empire, and you can do everything, everything you need to do on your list. And there are some days you can't even get out of bed. And I think that's with everybody. And sometimes if getting out of bed, brushing your teeth, and having a coffee is all you can do for that day, then fine, take it. That's success. Now repeat the same thing and make it a habit to get out of bed and do that one thing. But again, you have to plan things out, right? And always remind yourself you could do it and that you're awesome. And I really believe it. We are all awesome. There's stuff that I can do that you can't. There's stuff that you can do that I can't do, even if I tried if I wanted to. Okay, but the main thing is always try. Yeah. I don't know why I feel the need to always say that, because I think to large parts it's me talking to myself, but I know some of you guys appreciate it. And I hope you do. I hope you don't find it too hokey, because I know there are some individuals that think, oh, I don't believe in this motivational BS and everything. But you know what? I don't consider it, well, maybe it is motivational, but I consider it more of a reminder. And what you say to yourself is really important. Okay, wow. And with that, thank you very much. And finally, I'm going to ask a question. If you think this channel is worthy, please subscribe, like it, share it, and let people know about it. I would really appreciate it. Thanks very much.